welcome back to the Early Nerds podcast. Today is going to be our, I believe, fourth episode. So, yay, number four. Today's sponsor is going to be Dubby. Thank you for sponsoring us. If you guys want to get some product from them, use our code that's going to be linked down in the description, and you get yourself a nice little 10% off. Other than that, today we're going to be covering kind of a what is Warhammer type deal. It's just going to be us giving a little bit of facts and knowledge about mainly Warhammer 40K, Age of Sigmar, and the Horus Heresy. It's going to be
Right on.
real good fun, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to start this off at? I was thinking maybe Age of Sigmar, just because I think isn't that like medieval times?
It is, yes. So I figured we might also be able to briefly touch over just the origins of Games Workshop as well.
Ooh, I'm down with that because I honestly don't know much about that. But
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, man. You got this. Let's go.
So Games Workshop, the company that creates the Warhammer games, was actually founded in 1975. They didn't really start off by doing the tabletop war game stuff. They originally just started by doing like wooden board games, so like checkers, stuff like that, backgammon. And interestingly enough, they kind of got their start into the wargaming field by importing Dungeons and Dragons over to the US. Maybe it's from the US to the UK, I can't remember. But basically, yeah, they kind of started off doing that, and then things between GW and the Dungeons and Dragons company kind of fell through, and then they decided they might as well just do something on their own. And that's kind of where we are with the Warhammer franchise, because they had so many great ideas from their developers and from the people that were helping create these contents and campaign for the D&D, that they kind of just decided we can do this ourselves. So they did.
Thank God they did.
Oh yeah.
Like, nothing to talk crap about D&D because I love D&D, but man, Warhammer is just top notch. Love it, man. That's why I was really excited to do this one because I'm like, I haven't painted in almost like 2 to 3 months, and I'm
Seriously?
hoping, yeah, and I'm hoping that like us talking about it now will like get me back into painting because every time I'm like, man, I'm just sitting here doing nothing when I could be painting my Thousand Suns. So I'm like hoping, like I'm like I know that this is going to ignite that flame again, just so I can go in there and I'm gonna be no life painting again.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
So I know you said that those guys were like working, so they were actually partnering with like the D&D companies and making like different games and stuff.
So from what I understand, they partnered alongside more so to do like importing.
Hmm.
Um, so they basically were just kind of the middleman that brought it and introduced it to their community. But after that, they kind of were like, hey, what if we did it this way instead or that way instead? And from what I understand, they were like, no, this is specifically how we want it, and we're not going to change it all. And so they're like, okay. And then when they started making their own content, that was when things kind of really drived a wedge between the two of them.
So specifically, was that Rick and Alicio? I think that's how you pronounce his name. Was that those two guys that felt that way, or was that just like the whole team that they were with?
From Games Workshop,
Yep.
or
Like the guy, or was it like a different team that created Warhammer, or was it just I don't know how to word that. I'm terrible at wording things, but like because I see here that it says that Rick, I think I want to say I'm gonna fuck this name up. Rick Presley and Alicio Cavator, like they
hmm.
they specifically created Warhammer. So I was wondering if like they were like working with that D&D shop, and then they were like, how about me and you create a game together?
So from what I understand, they were the individuals who kind of created the lore behind all of it. They
Oh,
were not
okay.
the individuals who created the Games Workshop company.
Okay, okay, okay.
But if I'm not mistaken, they were brought on board, and then they were kind of like their storyboarding, or at least the individuals that conceptualized the Warhammer franchise itself.
That makes sense now. I get
Yeah.
it. I was like, man, did these guys create Games Workshop? They must be rolling in money.
The individuals that created War or Games Workshop was John Peake, Ian Livingstone, and Steve Jackson. Later, they were accompanied by Brian, Richard, and Rick.
Nice. Is there more to like about Games Workshop that we need to know?
Not necessarily. A lot of these things kind of just are fairly common knowledge for a lot of the people that are into Warhammer
Hmm.
nowadays. Um, but basically, even though the company was founded in 75, they didn't actually start doing models and stuff like that until 79.
Were they doing the like when they started actually making models? Were they making models for Horus Heresy first or Warhammer?
If I'm not mistaken, they started out with Warhammer Fantasy,
Okay,
and then 40K followed pretty soon after. Horus Heresy wasn't necessarily a really big thing until later on down the road.
nice. So just because I know I'm gonna be gearing up to get some Warhammer, 10th edition, and I know you're excited for it. So that's mainly why I really wanted to do this video, just so we could probably catch a few people who are like, "Oh, I kind of seen some Warhammer stuff, and I kind of want to know a little bit more about it." So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. So, how about what I was thinking that we could do is we could start off, kind of not really in the actual timeline of these games, but just like, the time periods that they're taking place in, which obviously I believe Age of Sigmar is taking
Mhm.
place in the medieval times. Then Horus Heresy is the prelude to Warhammer 40K. So I figured we
Indeed.
do, Sigmar, Horus Heresy, 40K.
Yeah, works for me.
Um, I actually don't know jack about Age of Sigmar. um, I know like a couple few facts that I looked up before we actually started this, which is just about the kind of gist of what it is and when it was made and stuff. But I'm actually really excited to learn a little bit more about it because I have those orc models that you got me that I still need to kit bash and make my Jabari Space Marines.
Hmm, nice. So, Age of Sigmar, people kind of tend to equate to the fantasy version of 40K, but there's actually quite a surprising amount of differences. Um, to be quite honest, I can't tell you every bit of difference. I know shooting is a really, really, basically doesn't exist save for like crossbows and stuff like that. And so the range side of things isn't as strong. However, there's a lot of difference between the two, but still a lot similar as well. I mean, a lot of the factions that you'd see in Age of Sigmar have relatively close-ish counterparts in the 40K universe, to the point where even the Chaos Gods are exactly the same.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Because I was doing a little reading and about Sigmar. Is he technically like the Emperor in that time? Because I see in his like bio, he's like the god of civilization, from what they call him.
Basically, yeah. He is kind of this god-like figure that everybody looks up to for the most part. I don't really know where he is right now, though. But yeah, basically, he has an entire soldier like regiment of these individuals called Stormcasts, and if I'm not mistaken, they are kind of long dead soldiers that have died multiple times, but every time they die, they get brought back into this space, this kind of non-existent space where they're rebirthed and fight again for Sigmar himself.
So instead of like essentially the warp just snatching them up like it normally would, they just kind of go into just rebirth.
To an extent, yeah.
Okay.
but just his faction
Oh, so everybody else is screwed pretty much.
for the most part.
That
Um,
sucks.
yeah, the part of being a Stormcast is that you're brought like the when you die, or when you're close to death, the storm like basically shoots down a giant beam of light and you just kind of disappear. Kind of
Oh,
like warp travel in Star Trek or kind of like the Bifrost from Marvel movies.
I was just about to say that. It's kind of like when Odin jumps down and starts fucking shit up.
Very, very similar, yes.
Okay, yep. I get that now. I also heard about this. I'm gonna fuck this name up again too. I do apologize. Nagash.
Yeah, so Nagash is kind of like the evil Grim Reaper type character from Age of Signar.
Did he get like corrupted by chaos or something, or is he just normally like that, or was he a human or something?
From what I understand, he's almost like another Chaos Demon, but they're not necessarily related. From what I've read and from the little bits that I've listened to about the game, he was kind of around since the beginning of time. But he kind of, because the beginning of time didn't really have much to do, he kind of just fell asleep. Um, yeah, basically.
What the hell?
Yeah, he was like, you know what? There's nothing here. I'm just gonna take a nap.
I'm gonna take a
And he
power
just fell
nap.
asleep. Oh yeah,
Oh my god! So he pulled a lion.
to an extent, yeah,
I'm gonna say, am I fucking that up? I didn't lion go to sleep or something like that. He was like, oh, that battle wore me out. I'm gonna take a cat nap.
yeah, and it then lasted like 10,000 years.
Oh shit.
But yeah, so basically, Stigmar himself actually found Nagash, basically underneath this giant mountain. And when Stigmar freed Nagash, Nagash basically he had lost his power as well when he fell asleep. Kind of like when if you sleep for too long in one position, you kind of just like freeze up and all your joints are frozen and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Same thing happened for Nagash but with his magic.
Oh, sucks to
Um,
fucking suck. Don't go to sleep then.
yeah, but yeah, so basically for a little while, Nagash and Signar were kind of teamed up. As these other chaos gods were kind of making themselves known, they were rapidly taking up their own space and their own niche. And essentially, Nagash was like, hey, I kind of got to carve a slice out for myself before people kind of, you know, take over my spot again. I'm the god of death, but everybody thinks I'm kind of cool, and I don't like that anymore. So he kind of became evil again.
So he just turned evil just to be a dick.
More so, he was always the god of death, but Grim Reapers, depending on who's portraying them and how they're portrayed, aren't always evil. They're more so, yeah, I mean, eventually I'm the god of death, and eventually I will take your soul, but I don't want death and destruction because that means less souls in the long run to take, you know?
Yep. Yep. That makes more sense.
But basically, with all the chaos gods getting away with doing their, you know, little scheming and conniving, Nagash was like, okay, so why am I being nice when these guys are being real bad and they're taking way more than I have? And so that's kind of when he broke back off and turned back into his evil man.
When I looked up their like Nagash's and Sigmar's relationship,
Hmm.
Google gave me a pretty fucking hilarious explanation. It said that those two pretty much had like a connection, like a buddy buddy connection. And then
Hmm.
when Nagash went back to being the Grim Reaper, he like Sigmar kicked him out of his cool kids club.
Yeah, that's basically what happened.
I was like, oh shit, man, Sigmar's a little petty.
It was kind of one of those things where he was like, all right, I'm leaving. And then Sigmar was just like, well, you're not part of my kids club anymore. And he's like, okay, cool, I guess.
I wonder if like Nagash like if he can steal some of those people's souls, like the ones that come back.
If I'm not mistaken, Sigmar protects all of them.
Oh, damn, he's just that powerful?
So, yeah, very similarly to how the Emperor kind of protects mankind to an extent, Sigmar doesn't protect all of his people, more so just his soldiers.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So it's just his Stormcast warriors, which are kind of like a blend between Space Marines and the Golden Boys that you like.
Ah, my custodies.
Hmm.
Damn, they are cool, man.
Yeah, there's actually quite a lot of different factions. One of the interesting things with Age of Sigmar is, unlike 40k, where everybody's kind of for themselves and you'd never see humanity working with, Xenos, they actually have four main, what they call like grand alliances, and they all work together, or at least the individuals within those alliances work together. So you'll actually see the Stormcast work alongside like the elves or the Sylvaneth, which are like tree revenants.
Hmm.
They're really cool models. But yeah, you'll always see the chaos demons fight with each other. There's actually the Grand Alliance of Destruction, and so that's where a lot of the orcs and the ogres are going to. And then you also have the Grand Alliance of Death, which is where you see the Legions of the Gash, as well as the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, as well as your vampires and zombies and what have you.
So, wouldn't Age of Sigmar be classified, like you already said, as like more of the fantasy side of things, and Horus Heresy and 40k are more of the sci-fi, right?
Yeah, basically.
Basically. Okay. So I have a question too. Do they like,
Hmm.
instead of like, like those range weapons you were saying, do they use like catapults and stuff like that in that game?
Oh yeah, they'll use catapults and they'll use bows and arrows and magic, but while shooting is kind of a really big thing in 40k, it's not as big in Age of Sigmar. It's a little more specialty type thing.
Okay. So it's more like just like a special character who will have that ability to be able to shoot someone.
To an extent, yeah, or specific classes. So,
Okay.
say for instance, your Stormcast warriors, most of them have, halberds or giant war hammers, um, but they do have specific models that are dedicated ranged characters. So you'll have a model with a ballista, or you'll have, these giant, like arrow launching machines, stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
I'm gonna have to do some more reading on this. We're gonna have to come back and touch on Sigmar again.
Oh yeah.
I
Probably
got
my favorite model range within Age of Sigmar is actually the Seraphon, which don't really seem to have a 40k counterpart. And they just got a range refresh very recently.
the only models that I've seen from Age of Sigmar are those orcs, and
Hmm.
I believe they were called paladins, which kind of look like the custodies. And
Oh yeah.
those are the ones I was asking you, like, can I kit bash these?
Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, a lot of people kit bash both. A lot of people turn their leftover Stormcast bits into Imperial agents of some sort. But orcs, you almost always see a little bit of Age of Sigmar orcs in somebody's army somewhere. But yeah, Seraphon, those are guys are pretty neat too. They are giant, like Aztec jungle lizards.
It's pretty
And as
cool.
weird as that sounds, they get even weirder because they don't even exist technically.
How?
Basically, uh, Age of Sigmar is a reboot from Warhammer Fantasy. The Seraphon were back then known as lizard people, but in order to kind of reboot their universe, basically they had this giant cataclysmic event that essentially destroyed the Warhammer Fantasy realm, if I'm not mistaken. And the Seraphon, who were kind of magic lizards back then, all of a sudden jumped into their, giant Aztec pyramids, and then they just lifted up from the ground and they were like, surprise, they're actual UFOs, and they just flew off. And so they kind of flew into the Age of Sigmar, or I guess the Warhammer Fantasy version of the Warp, and they just disappeared. They suffered very, very heavy casualties, but basically they reappeared in the Age of Sigmar universe. But because there really wasn't a lot of space for kind of the rank and file soldiers, just the psychic characters, the giant frogs that you see on their giant, like levitating chairs, models like Lord Croak and stuff like that. And basically, these Star Masters are what they're called, are so powerful in the Age of Sigmar version of the Warp. Their magic is so powerful, they remember all their soldiers and they're constructed from like stardust. So all of these models that you see, or all of the characters that you see on the tabletop, aren't actual physical flesh and blood living beings from the Seraphon. They are like memories of these old ancient warriors from ages past. And when one dies, it means that it actually kills the memory of that soldier as well. So it's a pretty heavy loss, and it's kind of cool, but kind of sad too.
That's pretty fucking cool. I never knew about that.
The Seraphon are probably my favorite Age of Sigmar faction. While I don't play, I have a couple of models of them lying around.
I'm gonna have to go check those guys out.
Oh yeah.
I have a question. Did I just hear
Hmm.
you say that there was a goddamn frog character named Commander Croaker?
Yeah, there's their god essentially. This really, really, really powerful psyker is named Lord Croak. So essentially, he is so powerful, he is technically not even alive anymore. He is a mummified husk, but because his power to like the psychic connection to the world is so strong, he still inhabits his body, even though his body is mummified. And even though he's dead, he can still use really crazy psychic powers. It's insane.
Is he like an actual? He's a model too, right?
Hmm. He actually just got an update within the last year.
Nice.
Both the resin cast model and the brand new model are absolute beauties in their own rights, and I love them so much.
So is he kind of like sitting in his chair, kind of like the king of the Necrons, the Silent King?
Very similarly, however, Lord Croak can actually partakes in battles. So he's also not stuck to his throne in the way that, say, the Emperor in 40K is, where he's tethered to one spot.
Gotcha. Nice.
Yeah.
That's fucking dope, dude. God, I didn't know Age of Sigmar had all this cool shit.
Oh yeah. There's plenty of something for everyone in that thing.
Um, how about we move on to Horus Heresy real quick? Because that'll, without going too deep into it, that'll take us about maybe like 10 minutes, maybe.
Just for a brief overview.
Yeah, just a brief overview.
Briefest of overviews. Yeah.
The briefest of brief, boxer brief overview. That was stupid. All right, so I'll do what I can for this and hope that I don't get butchered.
Oh well.
So if I'm correct, I believe Horus Heresy takes place in the 31st millennium.
Indeed.
It's a technically, I believe you would say, a prelude to Warhammer 40K. It mainly focuses around, I guess you could say, Horus Lupercal, which is one of the primarchs of the Emperor. He is the Emperor's favorite son, and he eventually turns to the Warp, which, if you don't know what the Warp is essentially a, how would you describe it, like a rift in space or like another dimension in space?
Space hell, essentially. You know that episode of SpongeBob where the Flying Dutchman kicks Squidward into that weird pulsating glowing thing?
Crazy! I mean, look at this place. It's disgusting. Whoever told you that hanging oil lamps next to hardwood paneling was a good idea? Oh, now what? I suppose you're gonna show me. Oh, gee, that's very nice. Oh, what is this? Some kind of magic act?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the warp.
Oh, Jesus Christ. um so yeah, that's space hell. Um
Mm-hmm.
so Horus gets influenced by the warp. Not technically the warp, he gets technically stabbed by a Nurgle infected blade by one of the, I believe, corrupted word bearers, if I'm correct. I don't remember exactly what his name is, but if I'll look it up later and maybe put it in here. Um it was all kind of orchestrated by his brother Lorgar, I believe his name is, which is the Primarch of the Word Bearers. He is a piece of shit, like prime time piece of shit. While they were trying to pretty much heal Horus after him getting stabbed in his left shoulder by this Nurgle infected blade, they put him under would you say it was like a cryo sleep or something like that while they were healing him up?
So essentially, when he got stabbed, there was an individual. I want to say it's not Lorgar. Somebody that it was Erebus. So basically,
Oh,
Erebus,
that piece of
who is
shit.
a giant. Yeah, he was born evil. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Erebus isn't even his real name.
Didn't he kill someone and take his name?
Yeah, basically. So he was like a little kid that was pulling legs off of bugs and ants and stuff, and you know, burning ant hills.
He was
And his parents were like, "Why can't you be more like Erebus over there?"
so
And
he's
he goes,
fucking
"You
Michael
want me?"
Myers.
Yeah, he goes, "You want me to be more like Erebus? All right." So he kills Erebus and takes his name and pretends to be Erebus.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
What the fuck? he's
40K is Grimdark for Grimdark's sake.
he's fucking Michael Myers. God damn.
Oh
Holy
yeah.
shit. Oh,
So Erebus knew about the warp knew about chaos, which the Emperor did not really do a great job describing to his sons about being careful around. And when Horus got stabbed by the Nurgle infected blade, nobody was able to heal him, but Erebus was like, "Hey, I know a ritual that could heal you." And because that was the only option available, Horus was like, "Yeah, do it." And then it kind of twisted his vision to kind of see the Emperor dead on the throne and all the things that were eventually to happen, but he was kind of tricked to an extent to believe that all of this was going to happen because of the Emperor's actions. So basically, Horus originally started the heresy more so to save his father, but also to save the Imperium. But he kind of, ended up actually causing everything to go wrong.
didn't didn't the vision also make him believe that the chaos gods were good and that the emperor was bad? Or was that is that just that's just hocus pocus?
To an extent. The vision he received didn't necessarily tell him that the Emperor was evil, more so that he was inefficient as a ruler.
Gotcha. That makes more sense.
And that chaos isn't necessarily this boogeyman that you need to avoid, but something that sometimes can be used for your advantage. But as he slowly started dipping his toe in, you know, he kept getting more and more and more corrupted to the point where he completely lost sight of his goal.
So pretty much after all of those events happened, Horus pretty much set out to, I guess you can say, defeat the emperor. And by doing this, he got a couple of his brothers. Specifically, I want to say he got Alfarius, Fulgrim, Magnus. Technically not Magnus. Magnus was tricked. He did nothing wrong. Fuck you if you disagree. um, Perturabo and Angron. There was one more, I think.
There were 9 Chaos Sons.
Yep. We'll just leave it at 9. I gave you a few. Look up the rest. um. So pretty much, Horus and the 9 other Primarchs and their legions all went to pretty much to Terra to defeat the Emperor. They scourged all across the galaxy, causing just complete destruction. There's a couple of important battles that we'll probably cover once we actually start doing more into the lore. But like I said, today is just more of a what is. But they pretty much scourged the entire galaxy, caused destruction, mayhem, all the way until they got to Terra, which is where the last and major battle actually happened. Horus pretty much showed up, was like, "What's up, bitch?" to the Emperor. The Emperor beamed his ass up there, and they had like a pretty awesome fight. By the end of it, the Emperor Kamehameha his ass and completely obliterated his soul. During this time, a couple other Primarchs died during this. I'm not going to go too much into that because, like I said, it's a what is today. So, but after that, those events all started the events of Warhammer 40K. Did I miss anything?
No, you basically got it.
Hell yeah! I'm gonna say in the future I'm gonna have to finish this this Horus Rising book because I really want to talk about that. See the video? The Fly of Despair.
Yeah, that's the warp.
It's the kid with the veins on his head and the big buggy eyes for me. I think it's terrifying. Jesus Christ. So other than that though, 40K. So 40K is technically about the 40th millennium of this Warhammer universe. That pretty much is about the events after all of the events of the Horus Heresy. During this time, most of the Primarchs are either dead, missing, or just disappeared for some odd reason. In more recent times, a lot of them have came back. Not a lot of them. I want to say about 3 or 4. Specifically, Gilliman, which is the Primarch of the Ultramarines, the Blue Marines that you see all the time. Lionel Johnson is back now. I don't know if he is out yet, but I think he's coming out with the 10th edition, which starts, I believe you said, next month on the 10th.
Lionel Johnson is actually already out as a model.
Oh shit, he is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh god damn, I'm behind.
He woke up a little bit early.
I got it. That was funny.
He set his alarm this time.
Oh, that son of a bitch. Now I'm sleeping. But most of the Primarchs that have came back, to be honest, have been the Chaos Primarchs or the Chaos Daemon Primarchs, which have been Magnus, my boy, Mortarion, and Angron.
Mm-hmm.
And goddamn, are those all some sick models, man. But all of them are just beautiful models, man. I love every last one of them. The Chaos Primarchs, like, I'm 100% diehard Chaos for Warhammer 40K.
Oh yeah.
It's the way
They always
to go.
get the coolest looking stuff.
Yeah. But back on topic though, those Primarchs pretty much came back and they kind of all just started fighting again. Gilliman is more or less trying to set the Imperium back on the track that his father had the idea of without actually forcing them to do it, because they've gotten to a point to where they're like religious zealots, and like if you don't believe in the Emperor or if you're not a human, they kill you. They are racist bigots. It's essentially they anyone that's not human, that's alien, they just immediately kill, like I've already said. The orcs, my boys, they're going around fucking shit up, causing wars. Chaos is doing their thing in the warp and kind of just honestly, I really don't know what the hell Chaos is doing. The only thing that I know is that the new mechanical god, like the guy that's trying to become Chaos god.
Vastor.
Yeah, Vastor. Yeah. That's like the most relevant news because, you know, he's the one who's actually like doing shit now, right?
Oh yeah. So I guess the best way to start is to actually explain the 4 previous Chaos Gods.
I should have did that. God damn it.
It's all good. You want to take away a few of them, or?
Oh no, you got this, buddy. I fucked
So-
up enough.
No, you're all good. So basically, the four main Chaos Gods. We have Angron, which name doesn't really do anything for you. He's angry. He's just fight, fight, fight. Blood for the Blood God, Skull for the Skull Throne. Next, you have Slaanesh. Slaanesh is kind of the icon of excess. Excess of emotion, excess of feelings, of pain and pleasure, which is why you see a lot of their models kind of in that really interesting, weird in-between spot. Tzeentch is the god of change. Basically, think Lovecraftian, where everything is both all-knowing and yet you know nothing at all. He's sneaky and conniving and underhanded as much as anyone can be. And last but not least, you have Nurgle. Everything is disease and rot and just death. I guess all of them are death, but Nurgle a little more so. A lot of his followers are just disease and plague-ridden, and honestly, their armor is just corroded and pockmarked like crazy. It is crazy.
Really dope looking though.
Oh yeah, they're beautiful. Nothing's clean or pristine with any of them, and that's kind of one of the main appeals.
Real quick, before you keep going,
Mhm.
I started dying when you said it, man. But you said that corn was Angron.
Corn was Angron?
Yeah, you were
Oh,
like,
my bad.
we got Angron. That's the chaos god.
No, they're basically synonymous.
Yeah, they're basically the same. I just thought it was funny. I was like, oh shit, Angron's a god now. Let's go, baby. Could you imagine just the dreadlocks just dripping down on Corn's chair?
That'd be scary.
Dude, he would actually be a dope ass like chaos god though, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, because like especially in like that demon form that he has now. Oh man, oh dude. He kind of looks like something from Diablo.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry though. I just just want to say that.
I mean, no, that's good. At least we caught it now. Corn, god of anger and destruction.
Other than that, you got the Imperium of Man, which mainly consists of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Adeptus Astartes, the Adeptus.
Sororitas.
Yep, that's Adeptus Sororitas, Adeptus Custodes, the Astra Militarum. Am I missing anyone?
Inquisition.
Oh God, innocence proves nothing.
Because who knows, you could be a sleeper agent of chaos and you wouldn't even know it.
You better wear your what the hell is that? That scripture that they wear on their chest.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
impurity seals.
Yeah, you got to wear your impurity seals before you walk out the door. Other than that, you got the Xeno races, which consists of the Orcs, the Eldari, the Necrons, and the Tyranids, which are getting a massive update in 10th edition, coming out with the Leviathan box, coming out strong, man.
Yeah, they are the faction, well, enemy faction focused this time around, which is nice because a lot of those models are really old.
I'm really excited to see where they take this, man.
Oh yeah.
They were putting out some bangers with Arcs of Omen and everything. Like I was reading a little bit of the stories and everything, man. It was pretty cool. Like that indoor combat system was pretty nifty.
I'm honestly surprised because one of the, not necessarily appeals, but one of the main almost tenets of 40K for Games Workshop is you really can't have much story once the game, goes into kind of their modern time because, okay, so I'm playing as this faction, but this faction doesn't exist anymore. Or, you really can't have a lot of development because the tabletop is kind of priority, whereas the lore is kind of just takes a back seat. But this time around, these last few years, they've been really gunning it in terms of adding extra lore and actually progressing the story.
I love how in like those new, like you said, in those new boxes that they've been like bringing out, some of them usually come in like a little pamphlet or something that gives you a tiny little bit of lore or something like that. I think
Oh yeah.
the one thing that I am going to miss about ninth edition is the codexes were completely, I can understand for some people, very confusing, and it's going to be a a much sleeker system to play in 10th edition, but the art and the lore and all the other little mini factions that reside in whatever codex that you buy, I'm gonna miss seeing that because it's pretty
Mm.
cool. Like
Oh yeah.
I own about, like, I want to say maybe 6, 7, or 8 codexes, and I just very often just flip through them just to look at all the different stuff that's in it.
hmm Yeah. Codexes are something that, depending on who you talk to, are either the best or the worst things.
So they're just more of a hit or miss for some people.
Oh yeah. I mean, for those that aren't as lore inclined, and for those that tend to play more on the tabletop, codexes might be a little bit, I guess, bulky would be the best word to describe it,
Mm-hmm.
especially for, say, Space Marines who have, I want to say, 60 different pages of every single model that you could field in all their rules. So trying to find that one specific model in your faction might be a bit difficult to get to. But it is a little sad to have a lot of the extra lore and extra factions kind of no longer make a big, no longer take up a big portion of the Warhammer experience.
I do get why they're doing it though, because to be honest, whenever we would play Warhammer, I would just, like I said, I didn't say this, but I would scan the code from the box, like, or the book, and I would just use my phone just because I don't want to carry around all of my models with me, plus like 2 or 3 codexes or whatever, or big ass codex with me, and be looking back and forth and stuff like that. So I get it why they're doing it.
hmm
It's gonna let you focus more on the game instead of the the actual rules. Because I guarantee you, it's not that hard to memorize a sheet of the faction that you're playing. Because eventually, some people can just go like, "Oh yeah, I know what this person does."
Oh yeah,
I'm very excited for 10th edition. Though it's gonna be freaking awesome.
most definitely.
This is definitely making me want to start painting again. I'm glad we did this. um, do you have anything else to say?
Not necessarily. I guess kind of one thing to leave it off on is not everybody enjoys the hobby for the same reason, and I kind of find that a really cool aspect of the hobby. Some people enjoy the physical model and painting side like I do, um, but some other people really, really enjoy the backstory and the lore. But some people just, love it for the games. Some people love it for the tabletop action instead of video games. But you also have people that, you know, think that it looks really cool and, cosplay or just doing that stuff in real life. It's it's got a little bit of something for everyone, I would say.
I like to
You know,
crump.
and I know you do. But even if it's not something that's necessarily your cup of tea, or you think it isn't, maybe give it a look. You might come back with maybe a codex or two, or maybe a couple of boxes. Who knows?
Trust me, I never thought I would see myself playing or painting models, because I was like, oh man, I couldn't see myself sitting here with like a tiny ass paintbrush and putting so much detail into these models. And the first times I did it, like I started off painting D&D models and stuff, and I
Hmm.
really enjoyed that. And then you told me about Warhammer. You're like, hey, you like D&D, might want to check out Warhammer. And I'm like, the hell is that? And you're just like, oh man, sit down, let me tell you about this. And as soon as you told me about that, you started off with the orcs. You knew exactly what I like, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, how do I sign up? I was like, yep. And then went out, got myself some stuff, and then we were like, yep, we're in this.
hmm
You gave Kaylee those Necrons, and yep, we were in here, man. Shit was awesome, man. I love 40K. It's definitely one of my favorite like hobbies to do, and it's just nice and relaxing painting. I mean, you toss on some music, get to painting, then get together with your buddies, fight your armies. Even South Park did
Indeed.
it.
A couple of times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it's like in the most recent episode. It's like the second time they brought it up. Randy was trying to get Stan to go outside and like hook up with chicks, and he's like, "No, I'm playing. I'm playing the who was he playing? The
I think the sisters.
yeah, he was playing the sisters. It was freaking awesome, man. I love to see that because it was exactly how I felt, how I would have felt when I was a kid if I was playing Warhammer. If I would have gotten to it sooner, because my mom would be like, "Why don't you go outside and play some basketball?" Or something. I'm like, "Nah, I'm fighting right now. It's serious business." But other than that, folks, I really do hope you guys, if for people who haven't heard of Warhammer or just if you want more, I mean, we're gonna do more, obviously, but if you haven't heard of Warhammer, look it up, listen to the podcast, um, go out, maybe look online and get some more information about it, and go get some boxes and some codexes and play, because it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Other than that, though, I've been your co-host, Caleb, and your host today mainly was CJ because he knows a lot more about it than me.
And you'll know a lot more. You know a lot more about the lore than I do, so
Oh, really?
I think so.
That's fucking news to me. Oh shit. Oh man. I mean, I've read a couple of books. I wouldn't say I know a lot.
More books than I have.
You gotta read the books, man. Gets the books. All right, though, folks. You guys have a good day. See ya.
See ya.